Pop on Silver, Larry Krueger in for Greg Papa. We'll take you all the way up to 2. We'll do it again tomorrow. And who knows what the topics of the day will be, because it seems like even when you say it's a drama-free offseason for the 49ers, then there's always something that will come up. There's always something Giants, always something Warriors or lack thereof, as it's been the last couple of weeks. Jennifer Lee Chan from NBC Sports Bay Area has been on the show from time to time, and she joins us on the UMA guest line, as I like to say, as a little ode to Naughty by Nature and their song OPP. You down with JLC? Yeah, you know me. What's going on, Jennifer? How are you? We lose her. We lose her. Oh, now I hear my echo. Well, Walter, what are you doing? I'm blaming the whole Walter settings. That was crazy. We'll connect with Jennifer in a second. It all
started with the Blue Jays jersey. That's what happened.
All right, I think we're giving this a take 2. We got you, Jennifer.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, fantastic. Great to have you. And let's just start with the Jauan Jennings situation. So, we've gotten into a lot of the details, a possible compromise, and all of that. But I guess I'll just start with the first question of Jauan Jennings plans to show up for training camp. But if he does, you might let it be known that he's going to be unhappy. So is the fact that he's going to show up, do you see that as a good sign that a compromise could be in the works fairly easily? Or is this kind of like a Brandon Ayuk situation where he's holding in and it's got decision to be messy real quick? And it looks like my phone's going nuts.
I'm here. Hello?
We got you.
We got you.
Okay. No, I think that it's always a good thing when a player comes to camp. But, we saw what happened with Brandon Ayuk, which is never a good thing. The hold-in was even more dramatic than the hold-out. So, when looking at Jauan's numbers, though, he 975 yards, 6 touchdowns. When you look at everybody else that had similar production last year, they're all making a lot more money unless they're on their rookie contracts. Puka Nacua is the only guy who is about in that range of productivity, and he's on his rookie contract. Everybody else is making a lot more money than Jauan Jennings, so you kind of understand why he's asking for more. It makes sense, right?
No, it definitely makes sense. And he's coming off a career year, and he's 28. And, when you get to that age, and it's a very young age, but for an NFL player, you start to kind of think about your mortality within the sport and your ability to provide for your family long term and all those factors. So I would say when I heard this story, Jen, that I thought they'll probably hammer it out, some kind of reasonable short-term extension that gives them a few more guaranteed dollars, a little bit more assurances. But I'm reading this Spot Track breakdown of what they think he deserves, and they're saying they think he deserves a 2-year, $38.1 million contract. And, Jen, I just can't see them giving him $19 million a year. So if it really is, if Spot Track's right and he wants $19 million per, do you think we're going to see a trade?
I don't know. The 49ers don't have a history of trading away guys just because they want more money. I know they love Kyle Shanahan. Larry, you've been in the press conferences when Kyle Shanahan talks about, I love Jauan. He does. The things that Jauan does, and not just like the numbers, 975, 6 touchdowns, but what he does as a run blocker, as a pass protector, the way he takes cornerbacks, DBs to their max point where they commit personal fouls. There's something special about Jauan when he's on the field. But I just don't know. When he got this last extension, I think everybody thought it was a pretty generous offer. But at that point, he was wide receiver number 3 behind Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So now with this wide receiver room in a lot of flux with Brandon Ayuk, his return unknown, Demarcus Robinson potentially facing a 3-game suspension, Jauan Jennings is wide receiver 1 again. So I don't know that the 49ers can afford 18 or 19 a year. I think maybe if it goes like 12 to 15 would be reasonable. But when you look at how much money they spent during the offseason with Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, and George Kittle, can they squeeze out another contract? But, he does have a lot of leverage at this point.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something we'll be monitoring heavily. Talking to Jennifer Lee Chan here, NBC Sports Bay Area. How concerning is Alfred Collins right now, both in terms of the offseason injuries and lack of participation in minicamp, and now still not having signed that rookie contract along with a whole bunch of second-rounders?
can we blame the Houston Texans for this? I mean, I think
Yes.
we can, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, they set the precedent, right?
Yes. Never have second-round picks been given fully guaranteed contracts. And why, D'Amico? Why did your group do this? So, I mean, Alfred Collins is one guy who I was concerned about at minicamp. I mean, he has not been on the field at all. Not at all. I mean, he hasn't done anything, not even individual drills. We didn't even see him working with medical staff. That concerned me. So for him to be holding out, and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said that he would be healthy by training camp, okay, cool. But now he might not even be there. So without getting reps, and as a rookie, reps are so important, it does raise concern, because not only is the health a concern, not participating in the offseason is a huge concern. How long will it take before they get these deals done for these second-round players? Can all the teams band together in collusion and say, okay, none of the rest of us are doing it? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but it looks like a standoff between teams and second-round players at this point.
The rookies reported today, and there's a lot of expectation that the rookies are going to not just contribute, they may even have to lead the way in some areas, especially on the defensive line. Jen, as we sit here in middle July and we haven't seen any practices yet, if you had to guess how many rookies potentially could start week one, what would be your number?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think if not as starters, as a rotational player, or on special teams, quite a few. I mean, Michael Williams for sure. I think CJ West definitely has rotational participation. Upton Stout, again, could be a guy who does, plays that nickel role. Nick Martin is a guy who is going to compete with D. Winters for the spot next to Fred Warner. I mean, so there's a lot. Jordan Watkins has impressed, and he's a guy that George Kittle told me about at Titans University that, hey, yeah, he stood out. And, you and I were watching, he stood out. He had instant chemistry with Brock Purdy or Mac Jones, whoever was out there. So these guys have a lot of potential to get out there, especially when you look at, yes, there are top players across the roster at every position, but who's going to play next to them? That's the big question. So I do think they have a lot of potential to get out there week one.
Talking to Jennifer Lee Chan here. I've asked your colleague, Matt Mayoko, about this before, and he kind of had to laugh because it's everybody's favorite topic, and it's a fan's worst nightmare. When I bring up the kicking situation.
How did I know?
Yeah, I had a feeling you knew I was going there. Realistically speaking, does Greg Joseph have a chance to outkick Jake Moody for a roster spot? I mean, the thing with Jake Moody is kicking in practice has never really been the issue. I understand why they wanted to bring another veteran in and create a little bit of competition, but I kind of think if you're going to take the Jake Moody route, like, you're not going to really get the information you need until he's getting reps in a game when it has really high stakes.
Yeah, there is that, because he's always been a good practice kicker. But I think the big thing to see from Jake Moody is how his changed footwork lends to more accuracy. So when they're analyzing every kick at practice and where it's ending up between the uprights, is he more accurate? Is he more down the center? And yes, of course, there's more pressure. But he wasn't bad before he had the high ankle sprain. So, I mean, if you take that out of the situation, that post-ankle sprain stuff, I mean, like, he was pretty good. So I think, and they admitted it during the offseason. John Lynch said when we were at the Combine, yeah, we probably shouldn't have let him kick as early as we did. And they probably should have put him on IR, and they didn't. And he went out there with a sprained ankle that he said wasn't affecting his kick. But when I asked him off to the side, he's like, no, I can still feel it. I'm like, well, if that's your kicking foot, it's affecting your kick. But also just the adjustment of his footwork, so he has more accuracy. He might not have as much distance. He's also a third-round pick, and I know that the 49ers want to try to save and protect their high-round picks as much as possible, just because of how much those for early picks cost to them. I mean, an air quotes cost. I think they think Jake Moody has a chance to be a guy who they keep around for a while, but he's got to prove that he can do that not only in practice but in games as well.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch that competition. Congratulations, by the way, to Christian McCaffrey and his wife. They just had a baby girl, and he looks so thrilled about it. And this is going to be a very interesting camp, I think, for Christian. Some people looked at him in the spring and said he looks amazing. Other people said, "Oh, he's obviously lost a step." I was kind of more in the positive camp of I thought he looked really bouncy and athletic and healthy. But that being said, I also thought Isaac Guerendo looked amazing, and I just feel like Shanahan's got to find a way to get Guerendo on the field. What do you think of, they've let Christian kind of run the show at running back. How do you think they introduce Guerendo? How do you see that mix happening?
I mean, I've always thought that they need to kind of control Christian McCaffrey's reps just so that he doesn't go to the end of the season and have any issues. So I do think Isaac Guerendo is a much better route runner, pass catcher than Jordan Mason was. So I think using him would be only to everybody's benefit. Now, I know it's hard for Kyle Shanahan, Bobby Turner to take Christian McCaffrey off the field when it's third and short. Those downs where he's going to get the first down. I think it's really hard for them to do that. But I think with his age and, just making sure that he stays healthy down the stretch, they've got to use Isaac Guerendo more. I mean, he's another guy that they spent a draft pick on that they need to use, and he can do those choice routes as well. He can catch passes. So to be able to utilize him and kind of meter Christian McCaffrey as much as possible, I think that's the best method. But, I'm also not a football coach. So, I mean, I know that in theory that's what they want to do, but Christian McCaffrey with the ball in his hands, and he really did. I agree with you, Larry. He looked great at minicamp and at OTAs. He looks like he's back to being himself. He looks like that pre-2023, what we saw from him. And now some people are saying that I think he looked slower because he didn't do every rep at full speed. In 2023, he was trying to get the timing down after only being around for a half a season. So I think he really did more reps at full speed. He knows it now, so he doesn't have to do every rep at full speed. So I think that's why you may see, some reps where he is just barreling down the field, and then others where he's not as much. So I mean, he's again also, like you said, football age, getting there. So you got to be careful. You don't need to take every rep at 100%. It's just not necessary.
Few more minutes here with Jennifer Lee Chan on the UMA guest line. You can check her out at NBC Sports Bay Area, also on YouTube. And speaking of your YouTube channel, Jennifer, I watched your video about 5 key players going into camp in the start of the season, and a lot of it had to do with players in contract years. Let me trim that down to just by asking you 3 players you'll be watching the most closely when camp starts. It could be rookies. It could be players who have gotten MVP votes. It could be anything in between, but the whole discussion on the McCaffrey wars kind of got me thinking down this track.
One guy who Matt and I have talked about, Matt Mayock and I have talked about, is Jason Pinnock. He's a guy who's on a very, very economical contract for the 49ers, and he's on a 1-year deal. I'm sure he wants to set himself up for a really good, contract for 2026. It's a 1-year deal for like $2 million. I mean, he's going to go out there and he's going to play while Malik Mustafa is recovering next to Jair Brown, I would think. So the competition at safety, who's going to be ready to play next to him? Who are going to be the starting safeties while Malik Mustafa is recovering? And I just don't think that he'll be ready for a while. I think he's going to start the season on the PUP, as along with Brandon Ayuk. So I think he's a guy who really could make a name for himself and get another contract after the 2025 season. Maybe the 49ers want him to keep stick around. Maybe another team will see how he can play. Him along with the offensive lineman. I mean, you look at the contracts that, Aaron Banks got, that Jalen Moore got. These are guys that 49ers fans are not big fans of. But when you look at people who actually know football a little bit better than the fans, the ones that are actually, the coaches and the scouts, they see what the 49ers offensive linemen do. So these guys that are coming up on their contract year, they could also be setting themselves up for huge contracts in the future. Ben Barch is going to go in there probably at left guard. Colton McKivitz is in a contract year. Can these guys show the league that they are worthy of those $20 million a year contracts or more, like Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore and Mike McGlinchey and all these other offensive linemen that have come from the 49ers? Because of what they have shown scouts and other coaches what they can do. So, I mean, it's big years for those guys. And my number one guy was Jauan Jennings, but obviously we're we're dealing with that now, aren't we?
Exactly. And I mean, I think a lot of us thought it was coming, but then it was like, well, maybe he's happy with his contract. And now we found out that he's not happy with his contract. How do you think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan sit in the eyes of Jed York? I mean, Jed's been nothing but supportive of this regime. He at every turn, if there's an opportunity to compliment these guys, he does. But they have fallen short of the Super Bowl. They haven't gotten that done yet, and it seemed like they kind of rolled the money back this year. They didn't spend as much in the undrafted market. Lynch said, "Hey, we need to spend a little bit less." How do you think the ownership feels about the regime?
Oh, I think Jed York is very pleased. I mean, especially when you look at what was happening before Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch got there. I don't know how you could not be overjoyed with the way things have gone. Yes, a tough first few years, but I mean, what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been able to do, the way they plan ahead, generally they draft positions that are a year out. So, you know, they take guys who they think don't necessarily need to play this coming year, but will need to play coming up. So, I mean, like Jair Brown was a kind of an early pick. Malik Mustafa was kind of an earlier pick because they were getting ready for when Talanoa Hufanga was going to move on, or, you know, so, I mean, they generally plan ahead. I think they've done a pretty good job. And while they, you know, it's funny because when I was talking to Jed York a little bit at the NFL annual meeting, he's like, yeah, yep, cheap, but, you know, we've got to pay Brock Purdy a ton of money. They're paying Fred Warner a ton of money and George Kittle a ton of money. So, I mean, like, it's not like they are really being cheap. They're spending a lot of money on a lot of these players. And when you look across the league at how many mega contract players they have on the roster, the 49ers have a lot. So they've done a good job of drafting players that maybe weren't number one draft picks that have come up. I mean, especially those fifth round picks, there's so many of them, right? George Kittle, Deommodore Lenoir, Fred Warner in the third round. They've found good players in later rounds that have really produced for them. So I don't think there's any question that Jed York is completely happy with the job that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have done. Of course, he would have preferred a Super Bowl win or two, but
Sure.
You know, only one team gets to have that per year.
Yeah, and of course the Chiefs finally picked the worst time to have a bad day. I'm still going to be bitter about it, Jennifer. I saw 24-0 and the Chiefs couldn't do anything. I'm like, what? You got to do this now? You couldn't have done this a year ago or
I know.
4 years before? It's okay. You know what? I'm going to let it go. Really appreciate you coming by with us. Have a great time out at training camp. I'm sure I'll be seeing you in person a lot more soon. And thanks for coming by. We'll have to start bugging you a little bit more often.
Sounds great. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Jen.
Jennifer Lee Chan, NBC Sports Bay Area. Again, if you're not reading her in NBC Sports Bay Area, you can also check out her YouTube page where she breaks down a lot of these different roster questions, training camp questions, rookie questions, and now probably soon to come, Jauan Jennings.
And her podcast with Mayoko is one of the most popular podcasts surrounding the Niners in the country. So check that out if you haven't already.